Okay, but it's certainly not finished. So I want to talk about some of the things I'm doing on my second pass and some of the things I added and what I plan to do and some tips that I learned. So we're going to start here in Unreal. What I did is I added the trees, the palm trees from a palm pack. I want to do some more. If you get up close to, let's see if I can go to the guy. Uh, well, he doesn't look very good. Let him. These metahumans are kind of weird that way, in that. So he may pop in eventually. There, no? Well, it's acting a little weird. But you can see the whole idea is to dress the area that I'm going to be doing the main shot at. And this is that's one of the things. I've been watching a lot of videos from William Fauchier. He is fantastic. He has a lot of videos on making your stuff look cinematic and different things he does, and he does beautiful work. And there are some others, but he, in terms of that kind of look dev stuff, he is one of the best. So if you're doing this stuff, definitely check out his channel. Some of the tricks about the things you have to have are your grain, and you want to be very subtle with any of the effects like lens flares or glow or things of that nature. The other thing is the cameras and how to. He talked a lot about 24. Now, my understanding of 24 FPS versus 60 FPS. So when I grew up, I'd watch TV, and you'd have shows that looked like movies. A lot of the classic sitcoms, especially the older ones. I mean, as you know, one of the most famous, I Love Lucy, was filmed, and with the three cameras and so on. It's filmed in front of a live audience, but it was, if you look at it, it's film. So it was filmed at most likely 24 FPS, frames per second. If you look at some of the later sitcoms that look like, the phrase I guess I would always use is live, but they don't look like film. Those were likely shot at 60 frames a second. So they don't look cinematic. If you think of some of the other classics from the 70s or, 80s, All in the Family, One Day at a Time, I think of some of the others. There are plenty of them. I mean, if you look at get to compare things in more of the same era, if you look at what Mary Tyler Moore's show looked like and what All in the Family looked like, that's the frames per second. I'm talking about the visual looks. So that was, I guess, an artistic decision made by the people doing the show back then. So if you want that filmic look, film is 24 frames per second. And to get motion blur right, one of the things he talks about that is your motion blur should be half of your, I think it's half of your frame. I'm trying to remember, but in this stuff it's 0.5 that you want to set motion blur at, which is the default on the current version. And you can get kind of a filmic look. So I said I added the trees. Now, one thing I want to point out is the difference in sequencers. These are individual sequences down here. If I go up and I go into cinematics, you have this, where did it go? Sequences. You got the sequence master. Now, what does that mean? The sequence master, if I can, I think it's already open. This is more like your Premiere Pro or your DaVinci. This is essentially a nonlinear editor. So you can do your cuts here. I prefer not to do it that way. Once I was playing around and realized that's what this thing wanted, I rendered them separately. Now, under here, you got the movie render queue. You can set up your renders for all your sequences, and you can save. Let's see, let me show you. So I want to render this. Okay. I pull it in as an unsaved config. The nice thing is you can have your presets. And it will put your presets right in there. Now, the one thing you're going to have to make sure is your output directory. I always do EXRs. Now, I didn't do anything fancy here, but I was taught EXRs is the way to go because they do, and in fact, they will accept doing a bunch of, when you can break things down into different render passes. That's what you need. This stuff, let's see, I need to work on this a little because I know I probably don't have all this stuff set correctly. But then when you're ready, you hit render, and you can also load and save the queue itself. So that's the movie render queue, and I believe Falshire has a terrific video on that as well. There are several people who did videos on that, and they go through all the settings. Now, once I had it rendered out, I'm going to close this. Well, let me see if I can have both open without things going crazy. And this is something, the Adobe products can be a bit hoggish. There we go. There's my guy. So, and I'm gonna put when I get done with this out at the end once I render it out. Now, again, there's still going to be some work because I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But in composition, let me bring this back to the beginning. Here we go. And composition, preview, play current preview. And you see the bottles coming, and you see him. And of course, this is and it'll just keep. But you can see we got some nice, I think the trees add something. I think I don't love his run, but that was the animation I had, so. And so let me stop this and talk about what I learned, what lessons, takeaways. First of all, of course, like anything, backup. I'm still trying to get figure out how to do source control because Git was not happy with the size of these files. I think it's mainly should be used for what typically it's used for, which is the actual, C++ or maybe Blueprint code. But you start putting objects in there, it's like, yeah, no, I don't think that's going to happen. I'm not doing that. So the other thing is the master sequence is essentially an NLE. So if you're going to use your own NLE, then you should render the sequences separately and bring them into Premiere or Resolve, how you wish. So those are two key things. The other thing is doing some of the different things that are suggested on some of these videos, especially the really excellent creators like Mr. Fauchier and others. And they will improve the look of your render. Now, what we're going to be doing is, my thought is I want like a cinematic looking at least at part of the island. I don't think the island looks good enough to do like a drone type view, but I can get like a little view, a little bit more than what we have here. And I also got a boat object. I'm thinking, yeah, I should have the boat there as well. This little pontoon boat, and show that. I think that'll look cool. I've even thought, well, gee, maybe I can have my dude standing on the boat. So that is a thought. That is a thought. So anyway, you can see the progress here, and hopefully you've learned something. Hopefully some of the things I've learned in terms of of how you get this stuff rendered out. And again, you render in EXRs. You bring the EXRs into a separate, your nonlinear editor, and then you edit it, and then you can bring it into something like After Effects or Resolve, their Fusion, and kind of make it stand out a bit. And you will have an above average to great render, especially once you do this more. And that's one of the things the more you practice and try to learn from all these different sources, and like the cameras, get the cameras set right. The tracking camera, that's one thing. On the MetaHuman, they will track not the body, but the actual top level. You can't select the body to track. Okay, so what happened originally for me is the body and the top level kind of got disconnected, which it wasn't going to work. So when you position your MetaHuman, use the top level, the MetaHuman level, not the body or the root or anything like that. Use that to position your guy, and then you could, on the camera, you can adjust the camera to be, especially if you're using tracking, which I did. I did not use tracking on the Kombucha bottles. I went into the level curves and, the animation curves, and got it to kind of do what I wanted. But with him, I did use tracking. If you're using tracking, then again, what you would do is you would position him, and you're going to point the camera to, quote unquote, the root, not the root, the top level above the root of the character, and you're going to adjust the character, use offsets to offset it to point at the actual body of the character. So hopefully this has been helpful, and I didn't go on too long. But thank you for watching, and I will speak to you next time. Take care.